"Name," screamed out the officer, barely looking up from his desk. The large metal gates closed shut behind me. It's 2019, July, Dhaka, Bangladesh. I'm waiting in line with around 24 other women waiting in line to go into Kashimpur Women's Jail. And the walls are so brown, and there's the stale smell of cigarettes and secrets. The women have their heads crouched down and their eyes lowered. They look so helpless. "Hello, name," screamed out the officer again, this time sarcastically. And the question hung in the air. "Titina Tanu, that's my name." The name Tanu means light of the moon, and Titina means rhythm. This name was given to me by my father. And my father's given name was Golam Kibriya, but he acquired the name Gogon Tanu as his pen name, as he worked as a journalist throughout the years, writing against the injustices that he saw in society. So he gave me his pen name, Tanu. As a young journalist, my father wrote against the West Pakistani fundamentalist Islamic government that was brutally murdering, raping, and driving from their homes millions and millions of Bengalis from East Pakistan, now known as Bangladesh. And let me walk you through a little bit of history. So there was West Pakistan government who represented the Urdu-speaking community of Pakistan and the East Pakistan part of Pakistan, which is now known as Bangladesh, and they were trying to enforce Urdu on East Pakistan. So there was a liberation war in 1971. Amongst the many soldiers who fought that war, my father fought with his pen as his rifle and the name Tanu as his shield. So this young rebel, he wrote plays, and he took those plays and did them on the streets of Dhaka with his theatrical group. One of these plays was called Dushashoner Barajal, which means the bars against the tyranny. And every time he would do this play, they would arrest him and take him away, but he would come right back and do it all over again. And when he would do it all over again, he would take it to all the cities of Bangladesh from place to spread the spirit of freedom through song, dance, and theater. So, as I passed these jail gates moving on, I understood and acknowledged that the name Tanu had been here before, 24 times for that matter. So as I moved forward with the guards next to me towards the main entrance of the jail, the girls from the cells came running towards the bars and screamed out things like "Moina Pakhi," "Birdie," "Blondie," some of which meant, "Hey birdie, what's with the blonde hair?" I felt like an animal being led to their cage. You know that feeling when you know what's coming is not the best, but you're so curious what's gonna happen that you're like, okay, I have to see what's coming. So they pushed me into cell number 3. There were more than like 100 and 120 girls who were like eyeing me top to bottom. And let me walk you through a little bit of status quo in the Bangladeshi jails. So there's the big-time criminals who actually get their own cells. The petty criminals, like myself, get to eat and sleep on the floor, like a big old slumber party. There's one more status there, which is the Raj Bondi, which is the political prisoners, like my father. They are highly respected. So I walk in and everybody's eyeing me, so I move to a corner and I'm like really anxious. And some of the girls gather up and they're coming towards me. They all have one question: how did you get here? So I put down my belongings and I move forward to tell them. I was taken by the police in a small bar in a kind of sketchy part of town. "What were you doing there?" asked one of the girls. "Oh, we were waiting for a friend, and we thought we'd have a couple of drinks before they arrived." They gasped, as if drinking was the worst thing anybody had ever done between these walls. I smiled and moved on. So we had finished like around half a drink before the place got raided down. And there were police sirens and policemen running after people, grabbing them by their collars, hitting them with their batons, and screaming indecent things to women, as if coming to a bar had heavenly opened up the gates to such disrespect. Me and my friend sat there looking at each other like, okay, what is happening? Because I knew that people get into trouble for drinking in Bangladesh, but especially women, but I really had never encountered it firsthand. I rarely got out of my privileged bubble, even though I lived in the same city. So I didn't know that this really happened. And as we sat there looking at each other, two policemen came our way. And they were saying things like shameless, disgusting, and prostitute. I got out of my haze, I stepped down from my chair, and I said, "What did you just say?" Silence. "What did you just say?" One of the police officers looked me straight in the eye and said, "Look at you, look at what you're wearing, look at where you are, and look at what you're doing, and still you're trying to stand up for yourself? That's ridiculous." I looked down upon myself, jeans and a t-shirt. I didn't know what I had done wrong. One of my friends said, "Well, is it against the law?" The two policemen looked at each other, shocked. Women who talk back? I guess we had pushed an ego button, because the next thing I know, we were in the police van on the way to the police station. On the way there, I screamed on the top of my lungs about injustice and sexism and equality for all. These policemen just stared at each other as if I was the crazy one. When we reached there, this really nice policeman came up to me and said, "Hello, can I have your father's name?" We all know the answer to that. So why would a woman in her 30s need her father's name as her identity? That's patriarchy for you. So, I'm not telling you, I said. So they seized my phone and they called him in anyways. And when he arrived, everybody was being so nice to me. I'm like, what just happened? They had found out he's the famous journalist, Tanu, and they probably didn't want to be in the papers the next day. So I felt disgusted at this classism, and I said, "Why are you being nice to me now? Don't be nice to me, just don't be nice." And they really probably thought I was crazy. One of the policemen brought my father towards where I was waiting and said, "This is your daughter. She was dressed in this Western attire with her friends in a shady part of town drinking. Is that safe for her? Is that respectful for you, sir?" My father's eyes went down. I knew he had so much to say, but he didn't for my safety. But I got into a rage. I had to say something. I got up, I took my jacket off, and I threw it between those bars into that officer's face. And I said, "Is that respectful for you? Is that respectful enough?" My father gave me a gaze as if to say, "Please stop." And he came back after a while and said, "Listen, they've agreed to let you go. You only have to apologize." Apologize? Apologize for what? No bloody way am I apologizing for anything. Funny thing, my father didn't request me a second time that day. Somewhere in his heart, he knew that an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And we were fighting the same demons in our own way. And he had passed down the legacy. So one of the girls who was listening to this story said, "Why didn't you just say sorry?" I didn't answer her then. The next few days were spent sharing views and ideas and stories. And the nights were spent singing, dancing, and sharing secrets. I wanted a notebook to note down some of these precious, precious stories. But notebooks are not allowed in the jails of Bangladesh. On the day that my father and my son, my hero, my 8-year-old son, who had cut a deal with the judge to get me out soon, came and said, "We can get you out," I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave my newfound friends of social misfits and gangsters. Friendships had been made, crossing all borders and boundaries. On the day that I left, one little girl walked up to me and said, "Apu." Apu in Bengali means big sister. So she said, "Apu, I know now why you didn't say sorry, and I'm never going to say sorry." The rest was said in silence, and that is living unapologetically on your own terms.